All right, good evening and welcome to the Aurora City Council meeting of January 25th, 2016. I'll ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Ms. Garner?
Present.
Mr. Dillo? Mr. Etheridge?
Here.
Mr. Forbath?
Here.
Mr. Kovak?
Present.
Mr. Cutley? Here. Ms. McDougall?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Mr. Becker?
Present.
All right, is there anything that anyone would like to consider as a prior action, from prior action? Seeing none, we'll move on to the January 11th meeting minutes and ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a move and second to approve. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cutley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougall?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
All right, those meeting minutes are approved. All right, we have a public hearing on 4 different ordinances, 155, 156, 157, and 158. I will read them in order when the time comes, but Ms. Januska will respond to any questions on all 4, and she'll make all her comments relative to all 4. So the first one is ordinance 2015-155, it's from planning, and it's on third reading. It's an ordinance amending section 157.05, application fee of Aurora's codified ordinances. Anyone from the public who would like to comment on 155? Mr. Mazzaro.
Corvette, members of the council, my name is George Mazzaro, 186 Eldridge. If you want to, we'll take 5 minutes each one. I don't need 5 minutes for each one.
You know what, go ahead and it just.
I think
yeah.
if I can go through it.
Fine.
As you heard, as council has heard me speak on this before, it's important to understand, as you raise these fees, they automatically transmit to the owner of the final owner of the property. My wife and I have been doing some renovation at the house. We put new windows in, we put a new roof on, we put a new furnace on. And the fact is, we had to pay permit fees for that. And there's a lot of money, believe it or not, because the contractor will not absorb that. They automatically transfer to the homeowner. And that's the problem I'm running into. If you look at, and I assume that all of you have received and have copies of this, the proposed fees, okay? It shows where the existing fees are not available, but they do show conditioning zoning certificate from 50 to 250. Then you see not available, you go from 500 residential and 1,000 commercial. I don't think the department is there to make money. They're there to protect the properties of the city of Aurora citizens. I appreciate the fact that we do have contractors signing up in the city of Aurora. I think it's a $100 fee and they can do as much work as they want to do out there. But if they are not, and they come to do work in your property, they have to pay the fee and they automatically transfer it over to the owner of the property. Protecting the homeowner is very important, and I appreciate that. But we pay our tax dollar for that. We don't need to be putting additional fees out there to take care of this. If you look at this major subdivision, $1,500, okay? And then you have your text, $500 from $100. And then maps, $100 to $500. It's not very reasonable as far as I'm concerned. It should not be changed. The more you start to change the fees, the less contractors you're going to see around, believe me. Because they cannot always turn it over to the citizen, which they try to do on a regular basis. You know, I think there's 28 pages here on all these ordinances, but you need to look at them closely and say to yourself, why? Is there a reason? Has anybody expressed a reason why you want to increase it? We want to be compared with Twinsburg, Solon. You know, you say to yourself, why? Why can't we just be Aurora and do right for the citizens? In doing this, you're not doing right for the citizens. That's all I have, Mr. Horvath.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Newsky, I'm going to have you comment on all four right now, and then I'll go ahead and read the rest of them. Oh, I'm sorry. Ma'am? Sorry.
Good evening, Deb Conti, 234 South Chillicothe Road. I looked at all the material that my predecessor spoke about, and because I'm the daughter of Jim Burns, I just look at math. And I'm right now in a very tight fixed income, like many homeowners. So I focused in on two parts. The parts I focused in on was 155, review of plans by city architect and city engineers. Right now it's a flat rate of 125. I think that's very reasonable. The new proposal is 75 per hour. I guess my question is when you present these plans, do you get an estimate so you have an idea? Because that really could fluctuate. So there was no way to do a percentage increase. If it's only 2 hours, okay, there's a little increase. But once you get into the hourly rate of these reviews by these two individuals, the architect and the city engineer, that could become very costly. And that definitely would be put on. I looked very heavily at, I believe it's 158. I have an old home, and yes, I do need to make additions, alterations, and remodeling. So I went through it line by line, and the math formula I used was I took your current rate by the proposed rate, got the difference, divided that by the current rate to get my percentage of increase. For any addition to any residential building, this is some homeowner wishing to make changes. Currently it's 30, going up to 50, that's a 67% increase. That does not include the 3 per 100 square feet or the 5 per 100 square feet. That's also tacked on, which is also 67%. If you're making alterations, remodeling structure, repairs of any building, now that was for additional on your current home. This is if you're just updating your home. That was 40 to 50. That actually was the smallest of all. That was a 25% increase. If you're demolishing or taking something down, a structure, that one was 35, proposed as 50. That's 43% increase. Zoning review, 15 now, 25 proposed, 67% increase. The electrical permit and plumbing depends on the size of the project. Currently, it got 3 factors in the current rate, so if you're doing a small project, it would be less than the 50 proposed flat. If you were doing a big project, the new one would be less money. Same with plumbing. So depending on the project, the old rate might be more beneficial. The new rate, if it's a large project, would give you a better break. Mechanical permit, that one I was a little bit, I wasn't sure. It was 20 plus 30 for AC only, which was $50. So I don't know if I was understanding that correctly. If it was just 20 for mechanical, it'd be 20, or 30 for AC. I didn't know. You have a new fee on there if you're going to go to a nice new furnace and AC unit, all one project. That's $85. That wasn't even on the books before. And the last one I found very interesting because of the summer. Hot water tank. It was $15 for the permit. Before, $25 is proposed at 67%. With the water we had in July 14th, I got 4 feet of water, but I'm very blessed. My water tank, even though it got submerged, did come back to life. So I didn't have to get the $15 and still is working. But on my fixed income, I have to be honest. These ones that you have for just upkeeping the people that own homes here, that's a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm sorry, anyone else from the public would like to comment on 155 through 158? All right, seeing none, Mr. Nuska? And you can comment on all 4, and then I'll go ahead and read the rest of them.
Okay. Yes, Mr. President, I guess I'd like to give history of where we started with this. Last year, we got new software in the department, And we needed to simplify the building chapter in order to have the computer price permits versus us doing it by hand, which was very time consuming. And as we started looking into this, we realized that the building fees hadn't been looked at in over 20 years. So we decided to do a comparison of other cities and, try and get to, an industry standard of what everyone was charging. This is going to just help the department with the day-to-day operations and the way things have changed over 20 years. And I would like to say that the percentage increases that were quoted, that's not true, because as part of it, we took out processing fees. We took out a lot of other miscellaneous fees. For example, on an electrical permit, you were supposed to count all the outlets as part of that, which that is gone now. So the average fee increase is about 15% on residential. It's about 23% on commercial and industrial. And if you look at the, just over 20 years, what the, inflation or the cost of living would be, that's about 42%. So we're under that threshold for the 20 years. On a normal, or years prior, we've looked at increasing a lot of our fees on a regular basis per just the inflation rate or cost of living rate. We never did that with any of these fees. So that's why we're proposing what we are now.
Okay.
So if there's any questions.
All right, Ms. McDougal, you'll have to save your comment until legislation, okay? Because this is a public hearing. All right, anyone else would like to comment on tonight's public hearing? All right, I'm going to go on to ordinance 2015-156. It's from planning. It's an ordinance amending section 1101.09, fees, deposits, guarantees of Aurora's codified ordinances. Anyone would like to speak on 156? All right, seeing none. I know, Mr. Mazzaro, I'm just making sure. Ordinance 2015-157 is from planning. It's an ordinance amending section 1135.04, zoning fees of Aurora's codified ordinances. Anyone would like to speak on that? Seeing none. Ordinance 2015-158 is from planning. It's an ordinance repealing the current section 1321.01 fee schedule and enacting a new schedule 1329.01 fee schedule, substantially in the form attached here to of Aurora's codified ordinances. Anyone like to comment on that? All right, seeing none. Mayor's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of council. As the first item in my mayor's report, I would like to do a special recognition.
Sure, certainly.
Thank you. We have a very distinguished veteran in Aurora. I know we have a number of them, but we have a distinguished World War II veteran who just received really a very incredible honor from the government of France. It's called the Knight of the Legion of Honor Medal. And the description of what that medal recognizes is as follows. Through this award, the French government pays tribute to the soldiers who did so much for France and Western Europe. 70 years ago, you gave your youth to the French people. You saved us. We will never forget. For us, the French people, you are heroes. I would also say that Albert Buzz Wagner is Aurora's hero as well, and I would like to recognize you with a proclamation, Buzz, for your incredible contribution.
Thank you.
Not only to us, but to France. Thank you.
Mr. Wagner, congratulations. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't expect to do any speeches, but So I've been here in Aurora for a good many years. Used to come in the late 30s. Our company used to hold picnics out here. And I liked it so well, I moved out here in 50, and everything's been beautiful. And our group, Harold, when we started the memorial, we were on our way going, and from the time we put the sidewalk in until the eagle was on top, we had a good time. And I know the people in Aurora appreciate that memorial, and me too, especially me. I loved it. And for my medal that I received from the French consul, I didn't know whether I was going to get it or not, but the friend that is in that up in Conneaut, where they have it every year, he liked all my books, and I showed him, and he says he's going to do me a favor, and he started working on it, and I guess I had a few from here in Aurora working with it, and in time now I received it out of for our ship. I was on a minesweeper, and we did the 4 invasions in Europe: Palermo, Salerno, Anzio, and southern France. And it was so good, Germany quit when D-Day started monkeying around, and it turned out pretty good. So they sent me home. I had a nice certificate in appreciation of your service. We honor you, but we still need you. So they turned around. I was a second-class mechanic, and they sent me to diesel school for 2 weeks, boosted me up to first class, sent me to San Francisco, nice troop ship, sent me to Pearl Harbor, and put me on a brand new gunboat with the rockets on the bow. And we were sent right away over to the Philippines to finish the, what do you call them people? I forgot. Anyway, we finished it off, and then they wanted to keep me again. The chief mechanic wanted to go home, and so they said, "You're first class now. Chief can go home, and you can be chief." Well, it sounded good. But then he added up a little piece of paper over there I had to sign. And nobody would have seen me for 6 more years. So I said, my bags are packed. I got $1.08 an hour job at home. And I happened to have a wife at that time. And the troop ship is there waiting for me. And I says, I'm going home. And I got out, and I spent 38 months in and enjoyed myself and did what I had to do. And I'm still here. So I appreciate this tonight. And I love everybody here.
Thank you for your service, Buzz.
Okay. I love
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Wagner,
you for this.
congratulations and thank
We'll
you.
see you later.
The president is speaking.
Congratulations and thank you again for your service.
Thank you. So, thank you.
All right, Mayor, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I appreciate all of you hearing Mr. Wagner. The 2016 budget proposal has been revised as follows. I sent some of this to you. There's been one other revision. $20,000 was included for the water rate study in the Water Capital Fund. It was in the budget last year but not encumbered. So we have included it again. The new addition is $7,500 for new equipment in the fire paramedic levy because of a donation which was just received in January. And finally, I renamed the sidewalk project in consultation with some council members, the Sidewalk Transitional Assistance Repair Program, or STAR. Council can move to accept the amended budget this evening, and I would certainly ask for your approval this evening. The annual report for 2015 is nearly complete and expected to be out in mid-February. I will remind you of the State of the City address at the Bertram on February 11th at 11:30. I certainly hope you can come. It's presented by the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. And in the interest of time, you can see the other things that I participated in the last 2 weeks. I would also like to make mention that a very important and stalwart citizen of Aurora passed away in the last day, Don Arbuckle, and I certainly have appreciated working with him in a variety of capacities, and he actually served on our Board of Zoning Appeals for many years, but he has been a great member and contributor to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the mayor? Mr. Vaca?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, you renamed the Sidewalk Transitional Assistance Repair Program. When you first brought this up, I saw there was not a problem with it. I think it's a good idea. However, I have a concern about the ordinance that's in place right now. We have an ordinance, and Mr. Cudley brought this up at the last meeting. Residents are supposed to maintain their own sidewalks. I understand this is going to be for like 3 years. Am I correct? It would be transitional. We would pay half, they would pay half up until a certain point. Again, I don't have a problem with that, but I think what we need to do is amend our ordinance, our standing ordinance as it says, to allow this to go for 3 years. Reminds me of what the mayor in Cleveland did here a while back. Allowed the protesters to do whatever they want, even though council had brought into effect new rules and regulations on protesting. This is very similar but not the same. So I think before we do this, I think we need to put a codicil amendment, whatever it is, to that ordinance stating there's a transitional period of 3 years that we will repair your sidewalk up to $50,000. To me, that makes sense. And then we're not violating our own ordinances. Thank you.
All right, Mr. DePiero, you want to comment?
Sure. Mr. President, Councilman Vaca, the ordinance and the state law and case law is pretty clear as it regards to sidewalk maintenance. People who own property, especially when there is a sidewalk on their property, they are to keep that sidewalk clear from any, they call it nuisance or obstruction, etc. Our local ordinances extend that duty, if you will, to keep it clear of snow and those types of things. And certainly if someone, it is an area that's frequently litigated when someone trips and falls, depending on the obstruction in the sidewalk, a homeowner could be liable, but the city also has potential liability if they have notice. The city has notice of obstruction, we fail to work with that owner or require that owner to keep it free from nuisance. That really won't change as far as I know with this program. I think the intent of this program is to assist homeowners for a period of time, in order to allow them to keep them safe, and so that they, when they buckle, they're not more than that which is prescribed by law and the case law, and to help the city assist those, because what it does, it ultimately can help keep the city free from liability as well. So I'll look at that. I don't know that we have to make any changes to our ordinances. I think this is more of a financial assistance, if you will, to those homeowners.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Law Director, I understand what you were just saying. The sidewalks in front of the cemetery are definitely of city property, and they have to be maintained. The sidewalks on 306, homeowners. The question is are those sidewalks in a city right-of-way, or are they on an easement? There's two litigations there. I just think that we can pass this budget, but I really feel more comfortable if we put this in there as a temporary cover for at least 3 years, because now we're violating our own ordinances if we don't. Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Vaca, members of council. This is not even for 3 years, this program. This would be in the budget each year, and it is expected to be a matching program. The city is not paying for this. The city will consolidate bidding to help the homeowner, but homeowners are going to have to apply for this assistance, and we will match them, match some cost with them. There is not an intention that this be permanent, and that's why we called it transitional. We changed the name to call it that. It's not and it's something, frankly, that council would have to vote to fund in each budget. So I have no idea how this is going to succeed, but I think it's something that I would like to give a try to, particularly with our focus on connectivity. Now, having said all that, as we have talked about connectivity and where we want to do the next sidewalks and who maintains them and how we maintain them, we have had internal discussions about who should be liable for those things, and should we look at changing the code, the ordinances in Aurora with respect to certain areas. We haven't done that yet, but this has been an ongoing discussion, and I think you're right. I think it's a discussion we should continue to have and perhaps make some changes going forward. But this is a purely transitional program. It is, to assist homeowners, because people are using sidewalks, and we want to help them, but also help limit the city's potential liability as we move forward. Thank you.
Last time.
All right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but the liability, you keep saying the city's responsibility, liability. There is none if it's on the homeowners. There is none. If the homeowners are the one that's going to be tagged with it, then it's their responsibility. And another thing, okay, I'll go a 1 year, that's fine, that's okay with me too, but there are some homeowners out there that are just not going to do it. In the meantime, you're going to get all these pieces fixed, except for one or two, so how do you force them to do it? Are you going to force them by the ordinance as it's written to make them fix them, or what? Thank you. Last call.
Mr. Vaca, or Mr. Cutley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Horvat. I want to thank the mayor. I brought this issue to her when we sat down and talked about the budget. My concern is philosophical with the approach that we wanted to go in. The dollar amount's $50,000. It's not significant when you look at our entire budget. But the idea that the mayor had originally wanted to call it a pilot program, and I thought, the problem with calling it a pilot program, just like a TV pilot, if it's really good, people want it, it's around for 20 years, and I couldn't buy into that because of our ordinance. And the fact that says that the homeowner or the property owner is responsible for the maintenance and repair of that sidewalk. And then in talking with the mayor, I understand where she's coming from, because past administrations in different boards and commissions have either waived the right for requirement for people to put in sidewalks in developments and businesses. And as a result, we have our connectivity program now trying to fill in those gaps that we allowed to be created. At the same time, with the requirement for maintenance, I think our liability steps in because we haven't been enforcing the ordinance to properly warn citizens that they need to fix their sidewalks, and if they didn't comply with that request on the part of the city, then we would assess them and fix it. So I think that's where our liability is, because we've been negligent in doing that. So with this, you know, I looked at it being a 3-year transitional program, and working with the mayor and Mr. DePiero and myself, we came up with that acronym STARS, because it is transitional. It's to kind of give the citizen who does have a responsibility to fix their own sidewalk that's in front of them, the ability to do that over a 3-year period, match it. And at the same time, we're kind of forewarning the citizens that, hey, we have a responsibility as a city to maintain these. We're going to start enforcing. We haven't, so we're going to give you a break here for a 3-year period, you know, and match funds with you to get those. And then once that program is over with, you know, and we approve it on a yearly basis for a 3-year period, then after, in my mind, after that point in time, the citizens are responsible. Not the citizen, but the property owner, because it could be a business that's responsible for maintaining and repairing the sidewalk. Thank you, Mr. Horvath.
Thank you. Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, President. I know in my development, the Woods, and also in the Seasons, there's a couple sidewalk issues that are just egregious, at 9 inches. I know several people who have been running or walking and have tripped and had substantial injuries. And although it doesn't sound fair, the city could be sued because of this. So, you know, to some extent, I think this is an insurance policy, correcting those issues now before we face a lawsuit. What I'd like to know is if we offer this policy, you know, this process to an individual, and they say, we don't want to take you up on it, can we then say, well, then you're willing to sign this thing saying you're taking 100% responsibility for the issue because we've tried to resolve it and you don't want to participate. Anyways, I'm glad to see this coming through because it is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed, and we are liable, and that's something that, you know, as members of council, we need to try to prevent future lawsuits in the future, and this is one way of doing that. So, thank you.
Mr. Hatridge?
Thank you. I've been talking to the mayor about this for the past 3 years and fighting for it for the past 3 years. One of the problems that I have found in my ward with Aurora and the Four Seasons is that the city has come out, planted trees on the tree lawn. Those trees, like it or not, buckled the sidewalks. Okay? I don't think it's right, a philosophical thing, to say that, well, we planted trees, now it's your fault. We have a situation in one house that the kids were using the sidewalk as ramps. I'm not kidding you about this. I had pictures. My granddaughter and I went around every house and marked everything down, okay? I mean, it wasn't that. It was this, and this, and that. And they got 2 old trees that are, look like they're 100 years old, they can't be, but that's where I came up with this whole thing, okay? And so I felt that it would be fair, set up a fund, a small fund, it's not a big fund, and say, hey, we'll pay half, you pay half. That's it. We'll level them, whatever we gotta do, it'll cost $100, the city pays 50 and you pay 50. And that's where this whole thing came about. And I've been I'm fighting for this, and I think this is a good thing for the city, especially we're putting brand-new sidewalks throughout the city, and we're saying there was some sidewalks that are like that. So, and it's not just the trees either, to be honest with you. We've had situations, we have water pipes sticking out of the sidewalk that high. Somebody walking at night and trips over that thing, I'm gonna tell you right now, the city's gonna be sued. And you can tell me every ordinance, well, this is, that can't be, yeah, well, they're gonna sue the people to keep us pockets. So I think it's a good program, and we should support it. Thank you.
Mr. Kovach?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. Who's going to enforce this, or what department's going to?
I don't know if
handle all
we're,
this?
Mr. Kovach, I'm not really sure we're at that point yet. We're just trying to get this into the budget, but Mayor, if you have a different comment.
Mr. President, enforce what?
Well, who's going to look at these sidewalks? That is it going to be a call-in of the people to say, hey, look, I want to fix my sidewalk, or is somebody going to be out inspecting sidewalks, or and who's going to inspect the sidewalks that we just put in?
Mr.
Mayor.
President, Mr. Kovach, we don't expect to be soliciting participants in this program. This is a program that we're going to offer and publicize to the extent we can in the community. And, you know, I suppose if there are particular situations we know about, that one of you could certainly go to the homeowner to solicit interest, but we don't plan on knocking on doors per se. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McDougald, last time.
Thank you. I would recommend that. I would recommend that the board representatives are, if they are aware of certain, which Mr. or Councilman Hattrich and I are aware of, saying, hey, we have this program, it's a limited time, you may have to do this on your own without help later. Can we recommend that you do this now? I would certainly be willing to do that. So, thank you.
Ms. Barner?
Thank you, President. I know that this is for basically infrastructure of current sidewalks. What about, for instance, and I'm sure this is not in a lot of cases, but for instance, in my particular ward, I have a neighborhood that there is sidewalks everywhere with the exception of one resident who, for whatever reason, wasn't the original owner, decided to put their sidewalk in. Could they also use this program? There was no sidewalk there at all, but there's sidewalks, there's just a gap, basically.
Mr. President,
Mayor?
Councilwoman, this is intended to be for repair, not to install new ones. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wolf?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I don't know who this question goes to, but so we're saying that once we end this program, or are we not saying that once we end this program that we're going to start to enforce that residents?
Okay, we're getting a little far afield.
Yeah, let me try to, there's been
Law
some
Director.
statements made about, thank you, Mr. President, about liability for the city, so I'm going to try to just clarify that from a legal perspective. First and foremost, homeowners and property owners have an absolute duty to keep sidewalks clear, clean, free from obstruction, in repair, so people can walk on them without hazard. They are the primary, that's their primary responsibility. However, cities, although we have a number of immunities that as municipalities we enjoy, if we have notice, and notice could be actual notice or constructive notice, that a obstruction exists, and the Supreme Court has ruled in a number of cases, I think sometimes there's a 2-inch rule of an obstruction, that rules go back and forth. But if we fail to enforce that and someone is injured, the city can be liable as well as the homeowner. And I will tell you, in my practice, I've seen many times where a lawyer will sue not only the homeowner but the city as well. Obviously, we would assert all the defenses that are available to us. So we can tomorrow start citing residents for obstruction. The mayor, a number of council members, I mean, that's not the intent here. Obviously, we need to enforce our ordinances, but I think what we want to do is, many times we have situations where someone cannot afford to do it, they're elderly and they are having a hard time. I think this fund is intended to assist us to bring them into compliance, but also to limit the city's potential liability. We don't have a sidewalk inspector like many cities that'll go around and all they do is they walk the sidewalks to check for obstructions and check for repairs. So I'm not sure that that's what this is intended. So Mr. Wolf raised a good question. What are we going to do after? I mean, I think at some juncture, if someone doesn't comply or doesn't come to the city, we have an obligation at some point to cite them if they will not repair it. And maybe the city will have to go in and fix it ourselves and maybe attach to the tax duplicate the cost of that. But if we have notice of a problem, the city has a duty to act. I think what we're trying to do is to try to move people towards that without, resorting to filing citations in court. But I think ultimately, that is what could happen if people don't repair their sidewalks. I hope that helps kind of what the program looks like. I think it could be a variation of a number of things we need to kind of, but from my perspective, we have an obligation to make sure, if we have notice, we've got to get those sidewalks fixed.
And the reason,
Mr. Wolf, last time.
Well, I just wanted to follow. I didn't get to finish the first time, so I just wanted to. The reason I ask is that these expenditures could easily come in under $10,000 for any piece of the sidewalk. So I want to make sure that we understand that at a certain point here, that money's going to be gone, and we need to communicate to people that once that money's gone, the city's going to start enforcing what it should have been enforcing all along, or if we're not, whatever we're going to do, we just want to be clear.
All right, since you were on a roll, go ahead. Water Director's report.
I have nothing further to add other than I have a law director's report, and as always, we're very busy and lots of things happening, but there's a few items on my report of note.
Okay, any questions on the law director's report by anyone? Okay. Seeing none, we have a council president's report in front of you. Council is asked to support a motion to add the following ordinances to tonight's agenda. 2016-003, which is the law director's contract. 2016-004, the road servicing project. And it was discussed at tonight's meeting.
Second.
We have a move and second to add the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. All right, citizens' comments. Anyone who would like to comment on anything on tonight's agenda, please move forward. Ms. Conti?
Good evening. Deb Conti, 234 South Chillicothe Road. This is in reference to the new legislation, 2016-004. The mayor kindly told me about this resurfacing project that's going to be coming down in the area where I live. And I sent letters on the 18th, 25th, and December 1st to Mr. True and the mayor asking if it was going to decrease the height of 43. The reason I ask this is, and I hate to tie this into, but it ties into my sidewalk. The current 43 in front of my house has no crown. So I'm hoping that whoever installs it puts a crown in, because I'm getting the water from across the street. I've been in front of you in my 1/4 acre lot. I've got over 42 acres trying to drain through my 1/4 acre lot. Then you compound, I get it across the street. The sidewalk is deplorable. It's deplorable because the water is just attacking it. If you put a new sidewalk in, unless you're going to change the topography that EPA says you can't, it's too low. I went to the front of my property. When I moved in, there was another storm water retention at the front corner of my driveway. Over the years, 43 keeps doing, which I'm afraid they're going to do again, because I looked at the legislation and it says the project of resurfacing urban paving lying within the city of Aurora in my area. I'm a layperson. I'm assuming we're going to put another coat of pavement on there. The stormwater, the city had to come out, put a new stormwater cover in because the hole was 10 inches deep and would kill a car. So that road is already 10 inches higher than when I moved into that house. So it's like a no-win situation, whether it's water, stormwater, sidewalks in the whole area. If you really want to see the dramatic part of 43, I don't know my neighbor's address. It's where the State Farm is, next to Mad Jack. That sidewalk, can't even see it. It's there. I know it's there because it's got grass and mud over it because the road is 3 feet higher at that juncture. So at this point, I know we're going to pay for that money. I don't have a problem with it. The problem I have is we're not asking the state to keep the road at the same height. So that causes topography programs with, at one time they wanted curbs. It'd be a waste of money. The sidewalks in my area on many of the properties, it's a waste of money because the water on my neighbor's sidewalk, that's the ditch. And 3 properties, it comes down mine and the ditch is the sidewalk, which is just beautiful when the water runs really heavy. So, yeah, I want a sidewalk, but topography-wise, it's a mess because 43 is at the wrong height. So I did ask to have something addressed there. I would love to have a new sidewalk in the front that's safe, but the water is just going to take it out at this point with the resurfacing going higher and higher. So I would really welcome, I do also want to say though, in the letter there was another issue. The mayor, Mr. True, did take care of it and it's a beautiful. So the city is wonderful in responding. And also a thank you to Donna. I was looking for the information and she helped me find it because I had it in my emails. You do a great job here, you really do. But this situation between the state and anybody on a state road, it really is out of hand. I know in Michigan, they're not allowed to resurface. They have to keep it down. That helps the topography all over. We don't have that, but it does impact all these sidewalks that you're putting in. So I guess what I'm saying is how we're addressing that money that we're putting out there on state roads and also the homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conti. I did bring that up at the committee of the whole meeting. I'll ask Mr. True at the time, when the time comes, the crown will be taken care of, but I'll ask him to comment when the time comes. Thank you. Mr. Mazzaro?
Mr. Horvath, members of the council, my name is George Mazzaro, 186 Eldridge. On ordinance 155, 156, 57, 58, it's wrong by increasing the fees. You're only increasing the cost to the taxpayer, the local taxpayer. And I know that's very difficult, to do, but I'm sure they're going to remember it as they go through this. But really what you're doing, you're increasing, again, the fees to the taxpayer. On 170, that's the budget for the 2016. I don't have any serious problem, except that I don't see funds in there for doing fire hydrants. I don't see any funds in there for taking care of all the signs in the city of Aurora. I don't see any dollars being put aside for upgrading the police building and the fire building, and that's well overdue. And you need to get it up if you want to continue the good service that we currently have. That was discussed over 10 years ago, but of course, we don't have committees anymore to do that. On 001, why this has to wait until this third reading, I have no idea. This should be approved. It should have been approved at the last council meeting. There's no reason in the world you can't, you know this is going to happen. Approve it and move it on. We spend too much time on things like this when we should spend more time on the other ones regarding increasing fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment on anything on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, Councilman, Ms. McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to address ordinance 215, 155, to 215, 158 to Ms. Januska. I just had 2 questions. Can you give me some idea how our current fee structure versus the changed fee structure covers the expenses within the department?
Ms. Januska.
Yes, Mr. President, to Mrs. McDougall. On average, a basic residential permit is going to take a half an hour, which would be the $37.50, which is pretty much what is being charged right now. The reason we're changing this is due to very large commercial and industrial projects that we can only charge $125 for plan review. The city is sometimes paying $600 to $800 for those very large projects. So we're trying to even that out. It's not going towards residential projects.
Can I follow up?
Yes.
Why is that we can only charge that amount?
Because that is what's in our existing ordinances right now. That's why we're changing them.
So why can't we just change the ones that relate to the commercial and not to the residential?
Mr. Nuska?
Mr. President, Mrs. McDougall, that is basically what we have done, but I was trying to go by the hourly that our plans examiner is paid per contract by the city, and just using the same, when we receive an invoice from our plans examiner, that is part of the permit.
Okay, and one final question. Some of these fees are per hour. Is there a limit on that? Or I think as an individual where it's just a per hour fee, that's kind of scary. I mean, how do I know as an individual or as a contractor coming in what my possible expenses will be?
Mr. Nuska?
Mrs. McDougall, on a residential standpoint, on an electrical, it's in-house. It's done in-house by Lionel, our residential building official. For the most part, they are always either a half an hour to an hour tops. It's when they go out to our plans examiner that does the commercial and industrial. And, sometimes we have projects that come in kind of piecemeal. They'll bring in a shell, then they'll bring in an electrical plan, then they'll bring in the fire sprinkler system, and they're all in different parts. And as part of that plan review, there's corrections and there's additions. So it depends on how well those plans come in and how the review goes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, do you want to add something?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President, Ms. McDougall. The fact is, we have been penalized, I think, by projects where the plans come in and they are not complete, or as Ms. Januska said, they come in pieces, and we have to take a lot of time, or our outside reviewer takes a lot of additional time reviewing, sending back, re-reviewing, sending back, because the parties doing business with the city are simply not providing what they need to provide. And on our part, these are professional services which we or outside contractors are providing, and typically those are billed on an hourly basis.
Mr. Vaca?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Same ordinances. I'd like to say that 41%, is that what the increase was over those years? I think every beginning of the year, if you're going to increase water rates, fees, do it in the beginning of the year at the prevailing cost of living rate. Makes sense. Waiting this long, then raising it 15% or 40-some%, this is what creates problems. Like, we want to talk about raising the water again. Well, if we would have raised it every year, 2%.
Mayor?
But the thing about it is, from now on, if we do pass this, and if this does go into fruition, every January, ordinance out, all these fees go up 2%, automatic. Landlords do the same thing. Beginning of the year, your rent goes up so many percent. and you're done with it. You don't have to wait 5 years. We did this, I can't remember what it was. Same thing. It was council pay many years back. Council hadn't got a raise for 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden, when council got the raise, everybody was screaming because we finally got up to the level where we should have been. So I think we ought to consider that every year in the beginning of the year, whatever the cost of living is, everything goes up. It's everybody accept it that way. A homeowner, $35 or $50 to put in a hot water tank. Come on, that's a little out of sight. But had we had done this, it would have been accepted. So, and the other thing I want to discuss would probably be on the sidewalk issue again, but we can wait until that happens, or the budget, I should say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else, we'll go on to tonight's legislation. Ordinance 2015-155 is from planning, is on third reading. It's an ordinance amending section 157.05, application fee of Aurora's codified ordinances. And we'd like to have a motion to postpone.
So moved. Second.
We have a move and second to postpone. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Dugal? Yes. Mr. Hubkey?
Ordinance 2015-155 is postponed. Ordinance 2015-156 is from planning and is on third reading. It's an ordinance amending section 1101.09, fees, deposits, guarantees of Aurora's codified ordinances.
Move to postpone.
Second.
We have a move and second to postpone. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Hubkey?
Ordinance 2015-156 is postponed. Ordinance 2015-157 is from planning, is on third reading. It's an ordinance amending section 1135.04, zoning fees of Aurora's codified ordinances.
Move to postpone.
Second.
We have a move and second postpone. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Mr. Hubkey?
Yes. Ordinance 2015-157 is adopted, or was postponed. Ordinance 2015-158 is from Planning Commission. It is on third reading. It's an ordinance repealing the current section 1321.01 fee schedule and enacting a new section 1329.01 fee schedule, substantially in the form attached here too of Aurora's codified ordinances.
Move to postpone.
Second.
We have a move and second to postpone. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Horvath? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Garner? Yes. Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Yes. Ordinance 2015-158 is postponed. Ordinance 2015-170 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on third reading. It's an ordinance approving and adopting the annual budget and appropriations for calendar year 2016 as submitted by Mayor Ann Warmer Benjamin and appropriating the monies necessitated by the adoption of that budget. As is on third reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Well, we're going to need to,
Amended.
we're going to need to amend first.
Right.
Second.
Do we need to spell out the,
Mr. Horvath?
Sir?
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, the amended budget should include $20,000 for water rate study, which is going to go into our Water Capital Fund 71, $7,500 for new equipment, the fire paramedic levy 39, and then renaming the sidewalk project to STARS Sidewalk Transitional Assistance Repair.
Okay. All right, is there a second for that?
Second.
Oh, it was. Okay. All right, we have a move and second to amend. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll. Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Vaca.
One question, reference the budget before we pass it. I would like the law director to come down with some kind of a ruling on my suggestion in regards to an amendment to that particular ordinance with sidewalks. I realize it's a little late in the season to be doing it now, so therefore we should pass the budget as it is. I'm not crazy about it. I don't think it's right, but however, I'll go with it to keep it going. But if we're gonna do this transitional thing every year, we need to know if we can do this. If we have to amend our ordinance, then so be it. If we have to amend it after we pass the budget, then we better. It's as simple as that. I don't like what, I'm not saying this administration does, but I don't like what happened in Cleveland. The mayor just went against their council's rules and ordinances and did what he wanted to do, violating their code of ordinances. And I don't want to see that happen here. I don't think it's going to happen here, but I really would like a ruling on this. If we have to do it, then let's do it. If we don't have to do it, then I got to live with it. Thank you.
Mr. Cudley?
Thank you, Mr. Horvath. Mr. DePiero, when this comes up for us to implement, could we not just simply create legislation that allows for an assistance program?
Mr. DePiero?
Mr. President, members of council, as far as an amendment, I think offline, I should just get a little more clarification as far as specifically what ruling. I can't make a ruling that affects what the liability of the city is pursuant to court rulings or state statutes, so I can't do anything about that. Certainly, we can set up a program and we can pass legislation if council wishes, directing the administration to set up a program with certain parameters. My suggestion would be that we work with the administration, have them propose a program of how the program will work, and then council can vet it at that point and we can implement it. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Ms. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner? Yes.
Ordinance 2015-170 is approved, is adopted. Ordinance 2016-001 is from the Committee of the Whole, is on second reading. It's an ordinance amending Ordinance 2015-106 to revise the Community Reinvestment Area Agreement with AKMA Development, LLC, as a result of the increase in the new construction investment from $450,000 to $700,000, and declare an emergency to permit construction to proceed as scheduled.
Move to suspend.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Bless you.
Ms. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Vaca? Ms. Barner? Yes. Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes. Ordinance 2016-001 is adopted. Ordinance 2016-002 is from the Committee of the Whole, is on second reading. It's an ordinance amending Exhibit A to Aurora Code of Ordinances, Chapter 161, Employees Generally, to reflect changes in the compensation for the individuals listed on the attached schedule, and/or to place those newly hired individuals listed on the attached schedule on Exhibit A at the compensation specified for them, approving such compensation and declaring an emergency. And the mayor's asked for suspension.
So moved.
Second.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Abstain.
motion. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Ms. Barner? Yes. Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Abstain.
Ms. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended.
Move to adopt.
Adopt.
We have a move and second to adopt. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll. Or, I'm sorry, is there any comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Abstain.
Ms. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner? Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2016-002 is adopted. Ordinance 2016-003 is from the Committee of the Whole. It's an ordinance approving an amendment to the contract for the provision of law services, legal services, to reflect a 2.5% increase to the base salary of the law director, consistent with other non-union employees for 2016, and declare an emergency to ensure the continuity of the law department pursuant to Article 7 of the city charter. This will go on the second reading. Ordinance 2016-004 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, substantially in the form attached here to an estimated amount of $352,168, which represents 20% of the total project cost for resurfacing portions of State Route 43 and State Route 82, and taking the necessary funds from the Road and Bridge Levy number 36 and declare an emergency in order to meet all local and state requirements for this project.
Move to
The mayor's asked for suspension.
So moved.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adopt.
We have
Second.
a move and second to adopt. Mr. True, do you want to comment on Ms. Contai's questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This project is a milling and resurfacing, so there will be milling and replacing a crown on 43. As I talked with Ms. Conte several months ago, we're going to be replacing a crown, and then twofold, as we do the new sidewalk engineering projects, we'll correct any problem with drainage and so forth behind that grade with the new sidewalk project also. So there's two things that will be going on there to help that drainage in that area of 43. That's a milling and resurfacing, which gives it the crown that's necessary on the road once again, and then also the sidewalk project, which is engineering, will correct any drainage problems too.
Mr. True, I have a quick question. So when they mill, the height of the pavement will be the same as it is now?
That's
In
correct.
most cases?
If they take an inch and a half off, in most cases it would be the same, but in the case where it'll be a crown, it'll actually be, you'll take it down at first, take the milling and crown it, and then put it back with an additional crown. So you'll have a variation in some areas where it may be lower or higher than it was before, but it'll match grade and match that existing storm sewers and so forth.
Thank you. Any questions from the public? Mr. Cudley?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that question, and it's just, have you put it in layman's terms? When you say milling, it means that this current surface is going to be removed and it's going to be back to the original height, so we're not adding any height to the overall road itself.
Mr. True?
Yes, the councilman is correct.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Vaca?
Just to add real quick, the asphalt grindings, do we get them or do they take them away?
Mr. True?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, this is an ODOT project. They will take them away, and we would not have room for this magnitude of grindings. We would need a new facility.
Thank you, Mr. Vaca. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Dool?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2016-004 is adopted. Citizens' comments. Anyone that would like to comment on anything in general, please step forward, raise your hand. Ms. Conti?
Deb Conti, 234 South Chillicothe Road. I appreciate all the work that goes into this. I did want to just give a call out to the mayor, Mr. True, and also our rec department. They put in a new parking lot over there on the baseball fields and a beautiful blacktop paved sidewalk, which I actually use because it's safer than the front walks to get back and forth. Used it tonight. It's very nicely lit. When I was walking it, I noticed that on the one side, because of the topography and the drainage, there were no parking stops for cars, and there is a very nice drop-off and lots of rocks that would eat your car. So I brought this to their attention, and they put those parking stops in, which means now that citizens will not be suing us because their cars slipped off the edge into this stony abyss. And I appreciate that tremendously. So I do give a great thing. You do answer questions, especially when you know to go through the channels. And I would really recommend anyone to contact Donna, your clerk, to start getting the mailings. I honestly have not been reviewing them correctly until she pointed out tonight. But the information that is emailed to the council can be emailed to any citizen, and it really gives you a much better idea of what council, the mayor, and all these different groups are doing in the city if you take the time to open the emails and go through them. So I am very appreciative, and I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conti. Anyone else? Mr. Mazzaro?
Mr. Horvath, members of the council, my name is George Mazzaro, 186 Eldridge. I don't know if you have watched television, watched all the snow out at the east. We're thankful we didn't get it, but you know what? Our service crew, as usual, have done an excellent job. I had to go to Cleveland twice since the last council meeting, and it was a pleasure leaving Aurora because I had no problem until I got to Bainbridge and then on 422 and going downtown. It was miserable. But thanks to the service department for a job well done so far. Hope we don't get any more snow. My second item was, on the annual budget, I would assume there had been some questions from council in reference to the budget. Yeah, since you don't prepare a priority list of things that you want for your area, and if it is, it seems to be kept secret. But the fact is, you would think there would be some discussion from council in reference to the budget. You know, you're spending over $30 million. You would think there'd be some questions by council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, council, Mr. Vaca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple items. I want to thank the police chief. It seems Nero got a little walk of the neighborhood last week, apprehended a person of interest. So the dog, it works out quite well. Thank you, chief, and also thank you for enforcing the no-through trucking. Up to date, we're up to about 10 trucks we have cited. It's remarkable. Another thing, Ms. Barnard mentioned the fact that there's a house without sidewalks in front of it. A little history here, Aurora Shores, back then, way back then, when Aurora Shores was being built, sidewalks were mandatory like they are today. However, our building department did not follow up, and so therefore, they issued permits, homeowners permits, they moved in, we had gaps also. Early 90s, we finally got that rectified. The service department, service committee brought it to the city's attention. We ended up putting the rest of the sidewalks in. Ms. Barnum maybe might want to research this particular property. If that's the case, then I think the city's liable and they should put the sidewalk in, because they didn't do it in 91 or so, or way back in the 80s, 70s, whenever the houses were built. Finally, we took on that responsibility because it was our mistake. We did not make them put it in. So that's something you might want to look into. And finally, snow removal. Yes, I have to agree with the resident. Great snow removal. Bainbridge was even better because Aurora does it. You know, Aurora does that road from 43 to the county line. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cudley?
Thank you, Mr. Horvath. Just for clarification purposes, as far as the creation of the budget, the members of council, we did have input as far as our priorities were concerned. We sat down individually with the mayor, discussed the budget, you know, her priorities, our priorities, where we disagreed. Amendments were made, changes were made, and things that we wanted implemented into the budget were put into it. So there is the ability for council to have its input. It's just being done a little bit differently than it had been with other administrations. In fact, it's a little bit more free and open under the current administration. So just wanted to make sure that was brought to the citizens' attention.
Ms. Barner?
Thank you, President. I just have unfortunately, a complaint on Treat Road from a resident. It just basically asks, and I've had this complaint before, and I know it's stopped, but it sounds like it's occurring again, that the business that has the sand and gravel pit, there's continuous mud on Treat Road and stones. It's a mess. I've gotten this complaint from Barrington Estates residents and Barrington also. So hopefully this can be corrected, maybe a phone call or a solution to this problem. And then also to my fellow councilman, Mr. Vaca, thank you very much for that tidbit. Appreciate it. It's nice to know that we have some accountability for people who had previous positions, and unfortunately, when they leave the city, it gets placed on the resident as opposed to back on the city. So thank you for that, and I will do my diligence and looking ahead for that. And lastly, I want to thank Mr. Clymer for his first meeting. Again, thank you.
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, congratulations to Buzzy, and again, thank you for your service to our nation and to our city. Secondly, I'd like to thank the members of council for considering the proposed citizens' comments for the committee of the whole, at least giving it more thought, and I appreciate that. And finally, can anybody tell me when the 1815 restaurant is going to be open? I get that asked all the time.
Soon.
A date.
Soon.
Let's call it February.
Anybody?
Let's call it. Mr. Hatridge?
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Januska, could you give me an update on what's happening out there at that commercial property on Page Road, please?
Ms. Januska?
Yes, Mr. President, to you, Councilman Patridge. As of right now, we have done an additional inspection, and starting tomorrow, each tenant in that building will be getting a warning of violation, giving them 15 days to clear up the property. If at that point it's not done, the citations will be issued through the police department.
Thank you very much.
All right.
One other thing,
Mr. Hatridge?
Mr. Wagner. Congratulations. And I'm sorry for not being politically correct. Buzzy, thank you very much. You know, he mentioned the Veterans Memorial and so forth. That started in 2001. Buzzy was at that initial meeting. He's attended every meeting since then. If you go to Veterans Day ceremonies, he's there. Memorial Day, he's there. He's been a stalwart in the VFW in Aurora. I love this guy to death, I really do. He helped me when things would go kind of sour on the committee meeting and trying to figure out what we're going to do with the memorial and so forth. And Buzzy was always there and give me inspiration and helped me out very, very, very much. The only problem, Buzzy, why'd you have to be a swabby? I mean, you know, for you that don't know, that's a term we say to give the Navy seamen. But from an Air Force veteran, Buzz, to World War II outstanding veteran in the United States Navy, I salute you. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harold.
You're welcome.
And Judy, too.
Thank you. I will.
All right, that gets us to the conclusion of tonight's agenda. We have a move and a second. Ms. Hawks, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Wait, well, we're not adjourned yet, people. Please sit down. Please sit down. We're not adjourned yet, please. Ms. Hawks?
Yes.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Ha.